Okay.
I can keep going.
I'm recording now.
We're recording now. Perfect. Well, again, my name is Heather Halter. I'm a digital solutions specialist with Bedford St. Martin's for various disciplines in the humanities, which basically means that my job is to provide training and pedagogical support for instructors using Macmillan Learning's LaunchPad products. And what we're going to be looking at today is a specific feature that we have in LaunchPad, which is what we call our course space filled with customized resources for each textbook that we have. And if you have yet to learn about LaunchPad, we'll be able to arrange that with you after this presentation. Just a little background on myself. Before coming to Macmillan, I actually taught public speaking at several universities throughout Central Florida. In grad school, I wrote my thesis on using online media in and out of the classroom, so this subject has really been an interest of mine for years. You know, I used online media while I was teaching myself, and now I get to help instructors use it in their course as well. So again, what we're going to specifically take a look at today is how you can use online quizzing to make your course even greater. And I say greater because your course is, of course, already fantastic. We're going to help you take it to the next level here. We'll start off by looking at how quizzing can benefit you and your students, and then we'll take a look at specifically how to build a quiz in LaunchPad. First of all, it's important to note that quizzing, in fact, is beneficial. There is a lot of research out there that highlights this fact. Just two articles that I pulled from a long list, Dempster in 1997 and Roger in 2006, show that quizzing helps students retain more information than simply just reading. So if you're just telling your students to read their book before coming to class, that may not be enough. Quizzing is really going to help them get to know that content a lot better. Now, looking specifically at online quizzing, according to Brothen et al. In 2004, online quizzing specifically has proven to be faster and easier in multiple aspects. Of course, it's going to be easier for you to put together than typing up and grading a traditional paper-based quiz. You can basically set it up once, and then it's ready to go again for multiple semesters. Additionally, multiple choice quizzes can be automatically graded, and that of course also saves you the time from going through every single question, looking at the answer, grading it, doing math, everything like that. All that takes time. And that of course also means that students can retake this for further practice. And additionally, it can provide prompt, immediate feedback, which numerous research articles have shown is better for students. So meaning they're taking their quiz, they're finding out if they got answers right immediately, as opposed to having to wait until the next class period for you or maybe a TA to grade that paper-based quiz. It also allows you to, and something that you want to make sure that you do before considering online quizzing, is to make sure that you think about your objectives. What is it that you want to accomplish by doing quizzing in the classroom? It's important to note that, you know, quizzes can be used for face-to-face classes, online classes, or hybrid classes. So if you're doing a little bit of mix of both, it can be used for all of those options. In my teaching experience, I actually, for a couple semesters, taught public speaking online, meaning, you know, I didn't get to lecture with my students on a regular basis. So I made sure to build quizzes every week for the students to take after they'd completed their read-in. Now, my particular objective was just to make sure that students were learning the key concepts of each chapter. So I didn't really place too much emphasis on making sure that, you know, it's a really hardcore assessment that they're getting everything right. I allowed students to take multiple attempts, and I recorded the highest grade that they received. So students really got to know those key terms. If they didn't do such a good job the first time, they could take it again. Maybe they go back and reread the chapter over the parts that they missed. And that brings you to thinking about, if you want your quizzes to be formative and be low stakes, or be summative and have high stakes. Basically, formative low-stakes quizzing are basically just there to help monitor the learning that your students are doing, kind of like I did in my own course. You're basically able to identify strengths and weaknesses, and as I like to word it, kind of, what do your students still need to learn? What do they still need to work upon? What do you as the instructor need to do for them, and what resources do you need to give them to help them improve? And this would be, you know, a chapter quiz at the end of doing a reading, maybe before coming to class. You get that idea of what they're doing well on and what still needs a little bit of work. You also, though, can use online quizzing for summative or high-stakes evaluations, where you're just looking at how much the student learned. Basically, what should the student already know, and how much of that do they know? So these are going to be more like your heavier midterms or final exams. And I do like to mention that trial and error is okay. If you're not totally sure what your objectives are, you're not totally sure if something is going to work, feel free to try a couple of different styles of quizzing throughout the semester. Just make sure to give your students the heads up. We're going to be trying a couple of different things. You know, you'll still receive grades, everything like that. And then you can really get settled into learning the exact type of quiz that you want to do with your students. And so with that, now that you've got some research behind quizzing under your belts, we're going to take a look at specifically how to build a quiz in LaunchPad. And it basically starts with building the assignments, adjust the settings, and then select the questions. And for that, I'm going to exit out of this and jump over into LaunchPad. I've actually got it already opened on my screen. And this is a sample of a chapter quiz that I built before this presentation, just so you guys can kind of see what a finished product looks like. This was meant to be a low-stakes formative assessment chapter quiz. This particular one's looking just at chapter 1. And you can see what my finished version looks like. I picked all multiple choice questions, and then I have a question pool down here, which we're going to take a look at in just a minute as well. It's important to remember that, as I said earlier, you can use this in a face-to-face class, an online class, or a hybrid class. You can choose to assign these as homework. You could even pull up these questions in class and work through them there. And of course, you can use this as a final or midterm. And as an extra little caveat, this works really well, especially if your campus has a testing center. One of the colleges I taught at had a room in the library where students could go in, sign in. You know, I gave the exam to the testing center. Students completed their work in there, so that way you know there's no cheating or any funny business going on. So always look into if your school has one of those. It's a very helpful option. So now we'll take a look at how to actually build these quizzes. I'm going to exit out of this. Right now I'm logged into LaunchPad for our Myers Psychology book, but this same functionality will be the same in all of our LaunchPads. From the home page, I'm going to come down to this button that says Add New. And in this menu that pops up, I'm going to select Quiz. And from here, I just have a couple of steps to walk through. First of all, make sure that you give your quiz a title. We'll just call this Chapter 2 for the sake of taking a look here. You can give it a subtitle. You can choose to include directions in here as well, but as you'll see in a minute, we also have some directions automatically populate for you, so you can choose to enter directions here or not. We'll hit Save, and then the next steps we're going to walk through are in the upper left here. I'm going to move on to the Assignment button. Here's where we can select a due date for our students. You can adjust the time as well. It defaults to midnight, or 11:59 to be more specific. You can schedule email reminders for students, allow late submissions until a grace period. And then, of course, you can choose the amount of points you want this quiz to be worth and select a category for it to appear in our grade book. I'm going to click Assign. And we're going to jump up now to this settings button. And this is where we get into a lot of the differences that differentiate your quiz from a summative or a formative quiz. We start off with the number of attempts here. You can choose kind of a traditional way to go about this is just to allow your student to have one attempt. That's probably what you're going to want to use if you're using this as a midterm or a final exam or one of those high-stakes assessments. But if you were like me and didn't really care how many times the student took the quiz, or maybe you're setting this up to just be a practice exercise, you can have it set to unlimited attempts. And basically the students can come here and answer it as many times as they want. Or of course, you can choose any other number between 1 and 10. If you're allowing multiple attempts, you can also select which of those attempts will count in the grade book. Regardless of what you select here, you'll be able to see your students' grades on every attempt. This will just be what actually shows up as the student's actual grade. You can have it take their last attempt, their first attempt, and honestly this is kind of the default if you have it only allowed to take once. You can track your student's highest score, which is the option I always used. You can track the lowest score. You can take an average of all of the attempts or simply just a total. We also have the option, sorry, I scrolled a little too far there. We have the option to impose a time limit. And again, this is something that you may want for those high stakes assessments. You can have no time limit, or you can have this set up so that a quiz automatically closes after a student has had it open for a certain number of minutes. Maybe this is a good way to help deter cheating. You know, you want to make sure that students aren't taking too much time going back and forth between the book and their exam that they're taking. So that can be a good option there. We also have options for question delivery. You can have this show up so that the student receives all of the questions at once, or you can have it show up one question at a time. So another benefit here for those high stakes assessments, by seeing one question at a time, again, they're not really going to be able to look back and forth too much, get ahead of themselves, whatever it may be. This can be also helpful if maybe in your questions you have a question later on that builds upon a question you already asked. That way students can't go back and, you know, guess the answer from that other question. You can allow students to save and continue. This is a great option if you want this to be a low-stakes assessment, meaning students can start taking questions, they'll hit save rather than submit, so they can exit out of the assessment, go do something else, maybe do a little bit more reading, maybe complete it after class, whatever it may be, and they can come back and any progress, any questions that they've answered will be saved and they can pick up right where they left off. These scrambling options are my two favorite to help deter any cheating that you might be worried about. You can choose questions to come up in a random order, meaning every student is going to get a different question no matter what number question they're on. So as soon as they open that quiz, more than likely they're going to receive a different question than their classmate did. You can take that one step further by randomizing the answer choices within the questions. So while the correct answer may be A for one student, it's going to be D for another student. And of course, again, multiple choice questions that this would apply to are graded automatically. So as an instructor, you don't have to worry about that. We also have options for how your students receive feedback. You can show questions and student answers after every attempt. You can wait until the due date has passed, or you can have them never see their answers. You can also allow students to see if their answers were right or wrong. Show the question score. This applies to questions that are worth more than 1 point. Show the correct answers after either every attempt, the due date or passed, has never, or never. We also have the option to add feedback to each question. and you can select those options as well. So lots of different ways for you to either allow your students to see their grade right away, you can hold off on showing them their grade, you can give them feedback right away or not, lots of different options there. And then our last option on the Settings tab is the visibility. You can choose to have your quiz automatically visible to students, again, for those low-stakes assessments. You can just have it hidden from students. This is going to be a good option for midterm or final exam. Obviously, you don't want the student taking that the first week of class. Or you can have it hidden from students until a certain date, which would mean it would automatically show up to your students on the day that you choose. If you selected this hide from students option, you would just have to manually come in here and switch it to visible to students. And then, of course, the last tab we have here is for questions. Now, this particular page is going to look a little bit different for every book that we have, but the functionality, again, is going to be the same. You're going to see question test banks all the way over on the left side of the page. Go ahead and find the chapter that you want to assign questions from. And I'd like to reiterate at this point that you can actually choose multiple chapters to pull questions from. So again, this can be a good end of semester assessment. You'll have lots of options for question types from our quiz bank. We have essays, multiple choice, and some other options that are going to be true, false, and short answer questions as well. I'll just pull up this first multiple choice bank. And then from here, it's super easy to build your own quiz. All you have to do, you can click Expand All so that you can see the full question. And any questions that you want to add to the assessment, you just check the box, click Add, and we can see over on the right side of the page here that the questions have now been added. And there's even more options after that. We do have the option to build what we call a pool, and you can set that up so that questions are randomly pulled from a group of questions, so that way, if you're not worried too much about students learning, one or two specific terms, it'll just pull a little bit of something from the chapter. And again, to do that, it's the same option. You just check the boxes here. You come up here, Add to Pool. We're going to create a new pool. This will be our Chapter 2 pool. And let's say I want it to pull 3 questions randomly. That means that for these 3 questions on the quiz, each student is going to receive a different question. Of course, I only added 3 questions, so let's add a couple more here. So we've got a pretty good quiz going on over here. There's lots of options even once we've got these questions added as well. You can always preview a question just to see what it looks like. You can also choose to edit these questions. If for some reason you don't like one of the answer choices or you don't like how something is worded, you can always click Edit, and it will open up the question right here. I'll skip over that. Oh, there we go. You can choose to move these up and down. You can remove a question. And additionally, you can create your own questions as well. Click this Create button, and the little arrow right here will allow you to type your own question. And the nice thing is, since this is multiple choice, it will automatically grade it for you. And so just select your answer and then hit Save. You also have the option to add feedback to any questions as well. So if a student selects an answer choice, when they see their grade, and of course as long as you have that option turned on and not hidden, they're going to receive feedback for each answer choice. When you're happy with your quiz, all you have to do, let me save my question here so I don't lose it. Then we go to Done Editing. And you can see your quiz right here. You can expand all these questions out, take a quick look at them. Of course, this is my pool here, so these questions are going to be pulled randomly. And then, after your students start taking this quiz, you'll be able to view their results right here. Since no students have taken this quiz yet, I'm going to open up another one that I already built so that those results look a little bit more impressive here. We click the results button, and we will be able to see my students' grades right here. You can see the number of minutes that a student spent on an assignment. And you can also see all sorts of quiz results here. Don't really have enough time to go into everything today, but you can see that there is a lot of information given here. Probably what's going to be most useful for today's purposes will be to see each student's submission, just if you're curious to see what answers they gave to all their questions. And of course, you can also come in here and manually change a grade if for some reason that's something that you need to do. So today we looked at some ways that you can use online quizzes to make your course even greater and how to build these quizzes in LaunchPad. We're going to be sending out an email as a follow-up, giving you all sorts of information on how you can get into LaunchPad, a recording to this session. If you're already using one of our LaunchPad products, you can actually start using these quizzes immediately. And if you're not using LaunchPad, we'll be able to set that up for you. And at this point, we'll go ahead and open it up to Q&A. I'm going to click over to the chat, and oh, I don't have any chats, so Scott, hopefully those all went to you. I'll let you go ahead and address some of those.
They did indeed. Thank you so much, Heather. That was wonderful.
Of course.
Question number 1, does the question bank show where each question is being used so it's easy to tell if it is already being used in another quiz/exam?
I know it does when you're building a specific quiz. It will, if you've already used that question on a quiz, it will be kind of grayed out. To be honest, though, I'm not sure if that shows up. But that's an excellent feature, so I'm really hoping I can confirm that for you. Let's see here.
Yes, it should be grayscale if it's being used in any place.
Yeah, let's see. I was building a quiz from Chapter 1 before, and I'm in a new quiz. Maybe that's not what I built this from. Let's go back to Chapter 1. It's not showing up as grayscaled for me.
Did you do Chapter 1 or 2? I don't recall, Heather. I'm sorry.
I used Chapter 1 for my very first quiz that I just kind of showed that completed results for. And I want to say, though, there is a way to pull that up. I'm just not positive off the top of my head, but
follow up with that later. It should be grayscale. It should be telling you that. I'm not sure why that's not happening.
Yeah, I believe there is an option for that. I just want to make sure I track that down and we get the correct answer to you.
Got a couple other. Can you create more than one pool in a quiz?
Yes, absolutely. That was actually one way we were talking about using this when we were planning this session is, you know, if you want to do, let's say, a final exam and you want them to answer, you know, 5 questions from Chapter 2, 6 questions from Chapter 3, 2 questions from Chapter 4, you can certainly set that up. You would basically just have multiple pools for each quiz. I can walk through that on the screen if you think that needs a little more explanation.
You can do multiple pools from the same chapter as well. I don't think we need to go into it, but yes, you can do a pool on top of a pool on top of a pool if that's
absolutely.
what you do. Here's another question. If I put effort into building quizzes, does LaunchPad save quizzes from one term to the next?
I believe it does, yes. It definitely will. If you create a copy of your course from the previous semester, it will absolutely transfer over.
Okay, another question. Are there ways to allow students to use the quiz via their cell phones? So do a pop quiz, let them answer their phones, and post the results on screen in class. If you can, I'll take this one. You can do a quiz on a cell phone. It's not terrifically optimized right now. We're working on the optimization of that. In other words, the way it displays on the screen is not fantastic. It does work. I would not suggest it being used in class as sort of a remote response device. We have something called Reef that for $10 you can include something that is designed as a remote response device to use in class. If you wanted to use, some people would call it a clicker. If you want to use something like that, I would go in the direction of Reef or a similar product. They're really designed to do that in class. I wouldn't try to use LaunchPad as a remote response device in class, but yes, students do all the time answer quiz questions on their phone, but it's not terrifically well optimized. I hope that makes sense. And there's more in the Q&A that I was missing. One second. How much is LaunchPad plus ebook versus LaunchPad plus ebook plus loose leaf? And then there's a question about an edition, which I can get back to that person in person. It varies from title to title. It's a question about price. It varies from title to title. The LaunchPad alone is generally going to be about half the price of a brand new textbook. The LaunchPad plus the loose leaf is going to be about 65%. Those are generalities, and it's all based off the price of the new book, and that differs obviously from market to market and text to text. If you go to launchpadworks.com, you can find that information, but I will try to answer that question to this person, Nancy White. I will try to answer you offline with more detail. I'm going to recheck the chat. Okay, we got another one. My LaunchPad doesn't have the categories shown in your example. I'm guessing that was when you were showing the settings, Heather?
Yeah, so the categories are something that you actually need to add yourself. They're not going to be automatically generated. So I went back into this assignment button where you select the due date and the amount of points you want it to be worth. And when you want to set up a category, right here, this would normally say uncategorized, but you can select this little drop-down menu and click Create New Category. And then you can just name this whatever you see fit to match up to how your grades work in your own personal course.
Okay, another question. Can you upload questions from Word?
So Word is technically yes. What you can do, and this is something I haven't done in a while, so bear with me here. You can come to this Import Questions option when we go to Create, and then it'll tell you that this needs to be in Respondus format, which is listed right below here. Each question has to start off with a 1, or you have to start at question 1, essentially, even if it's not going to be that question, you know, once you build the quiz. It does need to follow this order. So it's the number, the period, and then be successively numbered. And then with the answer choices, you need to start with A, period, the choice, B, period, the choice. Do that for each answer. And then you put a little asterisk next to what the answer choice should be if it's a multiple choice question. And then you basically select that from your Word document and paste it right in here.
Thank you, Heather. We have another question. Do most texts offer feedback to questions? And if you don't mind, Heather, I'll take this.
Sure.
Most texts in the test bank don't offer preloaded feedback for this type of quizzing. We do have another type of quizzing called Learning Curve, which is a more formative quizzing. And that more formative quizzing engine offers feedback for every answer selection. However, because of the number of questions we have loaded into the test banks and the quiz banks for LaunchPad, we don't necessarily offer preloaded feedback for most of them. So that would be ideal, but frankly, if you take a look at, say, like the Myers Psychology book, you're talking probably about 15,000 questions that are loaded in there. So it's just a daunting task to try to offer feedback for every distractor selection for 15,000 questions. That's 60,000 pieces of feedback. Maybe one day we'll get there. However, Learning Curve, which is also pretty extensive in a formative quizzing engine, if you will, does offer feedback for every distractor.
And I believe we're going to be offering a webinar on Learning Curve in the upcoming weeks as well, so you can always learn more about that then.
Okay, someone's asking, will the presentation be archived? Yes, we're going to put it on our LaunchPad community and send it to everyone that was an attendee here, so you will get that. Does LaunchPad work with Moodle? And the answer is that yes, it does work with Moodle. As far as integrating with Moodle, right this moment, it does not. But we are in the process of building an integration with Moodle for fall semester. The details are being finalized actually this week. I'm not sure if it's going to be a basic or deep integration. I wish I could tell you exactly. But the bottom line, there will be an integration with Moodle for fall that will have gradebook sync and single sign-on. I think that may be it, Heather. I'm just double checking to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, wait, no, I did. There's one other. My institution uses a Blackboard gradebook. Will grades automatically load into the Blackboard gradebook? Yes, we have deep integration with Blackboard. You do need to set up the integration for that gradebook sync. It is not difficult. It's very easy if your institution has already put in the middleware, if you will. I could certainly refer you to our integration folks who could help you set that up. But bottom line, yes, Blackboard, Canvas, and Desire to Learn already have deep integration with LaunchPad. And Moodle will be coming for fall. But D2L, yes. Someone asked D2L, and the answer to that is yes. I think that is everything, Heather. Hope I'm not missing anyone's question. If I am, I apologize. Thank you all so much for your active participation today. We always appreciate the questions and the interaction. And Heather, thank you so much for your time and your expertise today.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure. Thank you guys really all for coming.
Thank you, folks. You will be getting a recording of this, and it will also have links to get a hold of us if you need. And you have an email from me, Scott Dial. You can always just reply to that email, and I can answer your personal questions offline, and I will do so quickly. Thanks again, folks. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone.